So, hello everybody. My name is Chris Luebkeman, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of being the CEO and co-founder of Year 2040. And it's wonderful to see you here and to read all of your names, some friends, some new friends, old friends, and it's really fantastic. Today, this is one of our community calls. We typically have one and now perhaps two a month where we either do an activity, like some futurist activity, or in this case, we're going to be chatting with a couple of our community members and also you sort of in the room. And so we have two individuals who I really appreciate as humans and what they're bringing to the world, as well as appreciating all of you. We have two team members here, Emily and Kinney, who have helped make everything happen, and they have helped put together a little PowerPoint. And so what I'd like to do is going to share that really fast. And so what we're going to do as I do this is we're going to have about 10 minutes of conversation with each. Now I'm seeing I'm getting a mistake Meldung, let me say here in German. It's telling me I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing it all right. We're gonna have like a bit of a conversation. I'm gonna have a bit of a conversation with each of them separately. Then we're all can pop questions into the chat or jump in when we're done after about 20, 50, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It'll become an open round for all of us to jump in as you see fit. And you'll see they are going to all ask me questions too. It's not just a one-way gig here. So we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to see if it actually worked. Did it work or did it not work?
We see the
And
pictures.
Beautiful, but you could make it big if you wanted to.
that's about as,
Slideshow. No.
that's as, that's about as big as I can make it there. Is
Okay.
So, our first personality who's going to be joining us here is Karen Cha. And then Andreas will do you afterwards. I've changed my mind there already. So, Karen, tell us something. Where are you and how long have you been coming to your 2040?
I'm in Los Angeles, California, and I attended your 2040 one time last June
Mm-hmm.
with my daughter Gemma in that picture on the
Who I
upper
believe
right.
is in the top left, right? Is it top
Top
left or
left, yeah.
is that top left? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you came over from LA for that, and that was a one time, and you liked it.
Yeah, I remember telling you, Chris, that I kind of found you guys by accident
Yep.
because I was looking for the website of the movie called 2040,
Yep.
which is made by a pretty young Australian guy. And I watched it on the airplane sometime last year, and I decided to look for their website because I remember seeing in the credits at the end that they had something. And I found your 2040, and I thought that it was connected because they're very similar topic wise
Mm-hmm.
and working on environmental issues and looking
Yep.
to the future and trying to just generally improve our world.
Yep.
And when I saw that you were having this meeting coming up and
Mm-hmm.
that you needed to be invited to come to the meeting, I thought, ooh, that sounds like something I want to do.
I love it. It did.
Yeah.
And you applied, and we said, hey, this person is a great human, so come on in. And we actually tried to connect with the movie makers. I had two, three, four times, and I never heard back from them ever, which is very
Yes, you said
bizarre,
that, which really surprised me. But
Yeah.
but anyway, I was really glad to find your 20. We usually go to Europe every summer
Yep.
because my daughter's father is Italian and he has
Mm-hmm.
his whole family over there. So
Yep.
we were usually going around June or July anyway. And I thought this is a great opportunity to do another little side trip and go to a new place. New Zurich was new for me.
Yep.
La Punt was new for me,
Yep.
and see that part of the world before we go over to Italy.
That's wonderful. And boy, you went over the Alps and back down over to the Bigfoot. So tell me, what have you been doing since last June? So we got together the middle of June last year. It's been a busy year. What
Yeah,
have you been up
it's
to?
the time goes really fast. I've been trying to keep in touch with you all, doing these monthly calls
Hmm.
and just home in my world trying to do what I can. I know that they're very small things and they're kind of rounding errors,
No, no, those all
but
matter.
I am trying to do more gardening, vegetable growing in my
Hmm.
garden.
Yep.
I'm planning to increase the size of my garden beds.
It's
I've thought about
ambitious.
getting chickens.
Whoa. Oh, oh, watch out.
Those those little things that a
Yep.
lot of us are thinking about these days, I
Hmm.
believe.
Yep.
On social media, my feed tells me that everyone wants to get chickens.
I'm not sure. Wait, does anybody else on the call have a chicken at home? No.
My wife is hot and cold on the chicken thing.
Is she? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of wildlife near us, so I'm not sure how many of the chickens we would actually retain if we were to get chicken.
That's I can hear you. That's I had a friend who in San Francisco, in the city of San Francisco, had a chicken coop, and
Mhm.
they got one of these urban eggs, and they loved it actually, and they got lots of eggs, and then one day the chicken wasn't there. It's
Yeah,
like how'd that happen? Well, probably a
yeah.
rat or something got it, dog. So Karen,
I
what
do
tell me,
have.
tell everybody a little bit about what you do on a daily basis to help pay your rent.
So I am a consultant for biotech companies.
Hmm.
I've
Yep.
been in this industry for 29 years now. So right out of graduate school, I
Yep.
started working in biotech and pharma companies. I've been was 21 years working in different companies. And in
Hmm.
the Los Angeles area, we didn't have a lot of biotech when I
Hmm.
started. Biotech started in San Francisco at Genentech, you may
Hmm.
know. They've
Yeah.
been around for 50 years now. They just had a
Hmm.
50-year kind of anniversary celebration, and they were the
Hmm.
pioneers of biotechnology. And a lot of that is towards treatment of cancer.
Hmm.
So very targeted. So cancer is traditionally treated with chemotherapy, which is basically poison.
Yep.
And what biotech companies do, not just in oncology, but all different diseases now, is use very precise biology to try to treat or cure a disease.
Hmm.
And so I've been in a space called regulatory affairs where I
Hmm.
help
Yep.
companies apply to the Ministry of Health, for example, or the
Yep.
FDA to get new molecules into the clinic from the
Hmm.
laboratory into the clinic to
Hmm.
start doing human clinical trials. And in 2018, the last company that I worked for, which was usually a research and development facility, closed down for business reasons. And I didn't want to move because my daughter was in school in the Santa
Hmm.
Monica area. And
Yep.
so I decided to become an independent consultant. And
Hmm.
I was just amazed at how busy I became. So I just kept doing that. And I
Great.
kind of feel like I retired early because I get to
Yep.
stay home and work on my own schedule. And the biotech industry is just booming. So
Yep.
there's a lot of work for people like me.
Yep.
There are more and more people doing this kind of work, like
Yep.
gig working from
Sure.
home.
Yep.
And I think it's, I when I got my MBA in the 90s and the internet was very new, they predicted that the brick and mortar office would go away, but it took the pandemic to actually make that happen.
Sure.
And my clients don't even expect to see me face to face anymore. They used to ask me to come and visit once in a while, but they don't even care about that anymore.
Like
But
it's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But
Karen,
the Zoom, this has
yeah.
become so common and it's
Sure.
really works.
Yeah. Well, let me.
Of
I
course.
want to stay. I want to stay with biotech for a minute. And we can talk to offices and a whole other dialogue. But,
Yeah.
but if you think of over these years, you have observed probably a radical change, especially on the regulatory side,
Hmm.
and perhaps in this change, in your world. like from length of time from discovery through potential introduction.
Yes.
Is that true, or is I just imagining that?
Do you mean the time it takes to develop a new drug?
Yes, and to
Yeah.
get onto the market.
Um, well, it depends on the area of disease. For example, in cardiovascular disease, it still takes a long time, maybe 10 years on average. And that's just because it's because of the number of patients that you need to enroll, the amount of data you need is the bar is much higher for an indication like that,
Hmm.
versus in cancer treatment, which is a life-threatening disease. It does go much faster. It could
Mm-hmm.
be 4 to 6 years to develop a cancer drug because the
Wow.
sample sizes are much smaller in clinical
Mm-hmm.
trials. And because it's life-threatening, if you do have a new modality, a new kind of you're looking at a new kind of biology, and you have good results in the clinic, and result meaning people survive longer.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
the endpoint, the gold standard for a
Yeah.
cancer trial is overall survival.
Yeah.
Then the agencies will help you to get that to the market faster.
Hmm. Interesting. And
So
and,
it,
and so this just sort of spring to looking forward. So you actually have a very beautiful perspective looking back to pre-artificial intelligence to pre-silicon, because you can test a lot of things in silica now, not just humans. So
mhm.
we can
Yeah, that's
a whole different,
correct.
yeah, it's a whole different
Yeah.
process has evolved. To look forward 5 or 10 years, and where do you think things might head, especially from your
Mhm.
standpoint? Are we ever going to get like 2 years, do you think, or a year, or is it going to?
That is a great question, and there are changes happening every year. For example, right now, the regulatory agencies are trying to minimize the use of animals in
Hmm.
early safety testing, toxicology studies, especially with biotechnology drugs, which are
Hmm.
often antibodies or antibodies conjugated to something that is intended to kill cancer cells. You know, they've done so many of these studies to look at toxicology in animals, and basically they all kind of tell us the same thing. So
Hmm.
doing them continuously with each new drug is not really necessary, and it's such a great revelation that regulatory bodies are saying, okay, you know what, we want to try to minimize the repetition of these studies. If you have a particular kind of molecule or antibody that we know is going to behave a certain way in vivo, then maybe you don't need to do those studies. And I've just
Hmm.
started to get letters from agencies to forego doing that toxicology study in
Interesting.
animals. Yeah, which is great.
And somehow makes sense, I mean, if the indications are similar and you know that coming in, but there's always that exception, right? That's the exception becomes the rule.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
there are
yeah.
ways to handle that. So you can just start off very cautiously,
Hmm.
very low doses, very cautious in the clinic,
Hmm.
and if there is going to be a safety issue, you will see it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's great.
um, the other thing I've seen, just that the biotech industry has become such a huge machine, that like a very well-oiled machine, where venture capital gets involved. There's lots of millions and billions of dollars. Small startup biotechs are the ones really doing early discovery, you know, in academic labs,
Hmm.
in shared lab spaces, which is becoming more common in big cities. And then they get gobbled up by big pharma, and this, you know, the potential, the financial potential in there is so big, especially in cancer treatment,
Hmm.
that it's just really blown up. For
Yeah.
example, you know, and this creates a lot of competition for patients in clinical trials, which
Ha!
is kind of
Compet
amazing.
competition for cancer patients.
Yes. Yeah.
I, somehow that just seems wrong. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but
And I was just reading
huh,
that the Trump
hmm,
administration is starting to shut down many of its forest research labs. So environmentally, you know,
hmm,
related, and they're going from, did you hear this, Scott? Like 77 research labs regarding, around forestry down to 20 something. He's
really.
literally getting rid of most of them. So
Mm-mm.
in California, we have 7 such research centers, and we're going to be left with 2. And these are, kind of
Mm,
scientists, and it's an area that is very important. And these
mm-hmm.
small biotech companies, they shut down all the time because the chance of being successful with a new drug is very slim in the early
Yeah,
days.
sure.
And then people go off, and I was thinking about what could these people working in these forestry labs do when they're out of a job.
Yeah. No, it's really hard. It's
Yeah.
really quite terrible. One of the things we've seen here, Karen, thank you for that. It's inspiring to hear what we can imagine in the next few years and next decade, especially in your domains, very specifically. It's also, as you said there at the end, it's a bit of disturbing how one country who is leading the world in science has decided to step away from this. And there are quite a few of my colleagues at ETH who are trying to save a lot of the climate data, which is being consciously trashed. We're trying to become
Wow.
a data haven, actually, and
Mm.
they've been working very, very hard with colleagues around the world to try to hold on to the data, which once it's gone, it's like how can you get rid of all the past historical data? So very hard to see.
Mm.
But I'm going to move over to Andreas. Andreas Vogler. Now I got a slide of you as well. I'm gonna share that and gotta pop that up here. Here we go. Gotta share and slideshow. There we go. And see if that worked. I'm not sure if that worked. Did it work?
Yes, we see it.
You see it good. I can never tell here. So, Andreas, we've known each other.
Right.
If I remember you as a young man in a classroom of mine.
That was the late 80s, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the late 80s when you were studying architecture at the ETH in Zurich. And there
Right.
you are on stage, on center stage, under your 2040. Yep. So you've come to, how many times have you come?
It's 2 times
Yep.
only. For first time 2 years ago.
Yep.
And well, yeah, as you say, we know each other from a long time. You've been my structural engineering teaching assistant in the first year of architecture.
Yep.
And went to London. I went to London. I've always been looking what you are doing, and oh my God, he's become a futurist at O'Farrup and found it fantastic, and always had a little bit of look on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Drivers of change, and I think a very important role because also me, I've always been interested in the question how the future can develop and how possibly we as human beings can take an influence on it. And I think that's also what I really like on the workshop in La Punt, your
Mm-hmm.
2040, because it's trying to find this out on a very human level,
Mm-hmm.
also animal level. Because I had to be a cow. Remember? No,
Yeah.
I wasn't a cow. I had to be a meadow, and the cows were stepping and shitting on me in La Punt, and that
Yeah.
was really an experience. And I thought, wow, to approach a workshop like this is opening completely different levels of discussion and perspectives, and I think I found that very fascinating on the workshop approach, how you guys organize this, so that we're not just rational and science and we read papers and we communicate our research results and whatever, but we really combine this on a really human level in this fantastic, wonderful Engadine landscape, which I love and which is also within Switzerland a very unique landscape.
Hmm.
So it's already for that, it's worth a visit, and then the workshop.
Well, I really
And
appreciate that.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's really it leaves it leaves something when you leave it. You probably see your next question. What did I do since since then? And obviously the first time workshop, it left me, how should I say, but it's lingering on in my thoughts since then, kind of on how can we drive a community or build up a community um, to move towards a better, more insightful future as a society. And because I don't think that there's one solution to the problems, because the problems are manifold and there are many solutions are needed and many people working together, and there are actually many solutions on the table already. And the big question is, oh, why don't we go for it? You know, why don't we take it in our hands? And this keeps on lingering on in my head much stronger.
Hmm.
Not that it didn't
No,
before
no,
your
sure.
2040, but much stronger since then.
Yeah.
And also I carry it with me. So I had to go to Los Angeles to a kind of conference about robotic engineering because I'm working on a project on that. And I thought it's so stupid to travel from Munich to Los Angeles just for a conference and a little lecture. Um, and then I thought, if I do it, let's do something else. And I went off to Sequoia National Park, looking at these amazing trees. And whenever you there, you should go. It's really a magic
Hmm.
place, I must say. You come up from the valley, from the fruit valley in California. You see the oil pumps running, and then you go up. You drive up. There's no forest. You drive up, and suddenly on the top of the mountains, there's this gigantic forest with these gigantic trees. Is something really, it's a
Yeah.
sacred place, I would
Yeah.
say. Something very, very special. And leaves me with a very kind of important impression. Also, the history of like how obviously people have tried to cut these trees to use the wood, and nearly devastating. But the wood is luckily not so good for building, so they didn't cut it completely. And most of them died by wildfires in the recent 5 years, actually, which is also not a problem. But anyway, I'm kind of driving out. Another travel shortly after that
Okay. Yeah.
was to Africa. In my mind, I went to visit Juliet Grace, who was last year in La Punt. She lives in Uganda,
Yeah.
and we're kind of been discussing how we could connect this to Uganda, like kind of the Swiss little village and the African Ugandan little village. What would have they in common on a planet which shares the same biosphere? And maybe now I come to my space background because
Right. What's behind you there? It's very different than the sequoia, you
yeah,
know?
because I haven't even mentioned I'm an architect. But yeah, I studied architecture, but anyway, I've been always interested in mobility, transportation, and space, especially. and been doing studies in that field. But I think the big effect, if you look at the reality, how to build habitats for human beings in space where there's nothing like with life around, nothing life supporting. It's very complicated to build a life support system for human beings, very threatening. And then you look this blue planet with this very apple skin thin biosphere where life is possible in this endless space. You look at things differently. You look at what value we have, what value nature is giving us, and it's kind of, yeah, you just change the scale. And I think one
Yeah.
part of the education of an architect is change scale constantly, change perspective, change viewpoint, go from the big concept into the small detail and change back again. And I think if we can motivate people more to change their scale from their daily life they lead to the big scale of us being in the universe, and we haven't discovered other forms of life yet anywhere. And looking at this small biosphere, I think that puts things into relation quite quickly. And I
Hmm.
think this is the span
Hmm.
where we should look at our lives, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks for this, Andreas. It's really interesting. Just I'll start with the last one first. We've got a program at ETH just looking for life in space. It's a very large program right now, and talking to the head of it not too long ago was one of my global lectures. He's like, so people say, so why are we wasting money to find life out there? And his response, well, what's so amazing? The more you look, the more you realize how special we are. So how we have to really take care of what we are. And I hope I find something, but I'm not sure if I ever will. But it's so I'm going to keep looking and developing new tools and show how incredibly lucky we are as sentient beings to have the home we do have, and all the more important to take care of everything we can and to choose to take care of that. But so Andreas, what inspires you? What gets you excited about the next couple of years? When are you gonna join Elon and rocket yourself out to Mars?
No, I'm not so sure. Um, well, job with his rockets, basically, which NASA was not able to do. So I have to admit that um, he's also maybe sometimes a problematic character as well. But he's a fantastic engineer and entrepreneur, that's for
Yeah.
sure. He's moving a lot in that business. But anyway, what I look for, I think the step into space is an option we have as a human society.
Hmm.
And I'm currently looking with some colleagues at kind of collecting solar energy in space and bring it down um, to Earth, kind of to leave the fossil energy age into a space age. And that's in my background, the kind of lunar industry being powered with solar energy. So I think that is big thinking, but I think that is really an option where we can go to as a society.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to think big because else we lose ourselves in this little nitty daily, how do I pay my gasoline bill? I don't have a car anyway, so I don't have this problem, but it's now in discussion. Um, and to think very big, where do we want to be as a world human society in 50 years or in 100 years? Is it realistic that we still power all our things with fossil fuels, or really do we step into other realities?
Yeah. Uh,
And I think space is an option there because there is
mhm.
endless solar
Yeah.
energy and we just have to harvest it. The technology is there, we just have to scale it up, and is
Yeah.
probably closer to building on its own with fusion reaction. It's probably easier just to harvest the sun which we have.
Well, I think that's an inspiring vision to see that. Karen, you look like you're about to you want to grab something and say something in that, or no?
Well, I totally agree with that. I'm trying to get solar panels in my house, but it's wading through all of the businesses and the way they're trying to, you know, profit
Hmm.
from this is it's just mind
Yes.
blowing.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. So, because an interesting because when you start off saying architects always think big, and you guys, and here, Karen's like, we're talking down to the local building department and getting a bill paid, and how you get the
Yeah.
widgets on the widgets and get up. And so, how do we get that all those systems smooth to make what we know is a logical direction
Yeah.
take
And
place, right?
and
Yeah,
all the technology is available to us, but
yeah, yeah.
they don't make it easy, you know?
We s-
It's
we
it's a
see
big competition
we
for
seem to get in the way of
profit.
ourselves an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is where, for me, keep thinking, how can we, in our own way? And Karen, you're saying, I'm taking little tiny steps, and think tiny steps all add up to big steps. You can't run a marathon by jumping in one big fell swoop. You have to take a step and a step and a step, and this is where all of us have to do that. And especially, Andreas, as you're thinking about this mega, mega, mega big picture, it's always great to have those visions and to think, what are the steps we could do now? Right, and this is where over the past 2 years, and you started off talking about being a meadow and getting shat on by a cow, right? And for those who were with us, for the past 2 years, there was a process we went through where in the first year you had to become a character. To embody that character, there were six natural characters, six built characters, and six human characters. And the embodiment meant that Andreas had to become the meadow. He would walk out there and think of it. What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What does it like to be a meadow? And I remember someone once said, yeah, that it felt terrible when this this road was right on my back, right on my belly, And so to actually feel that, Andreas, it's really wonderful to hear you bring that up, and how those stories were woven together with you and Karen, and we wrote these beautiful stories, and how you had to backcast on how you got there, right? And this is the key thing, is how you have the story of tomorrow, the courageous future, which we want for the next generations, and what they want for themselves, and then how you backcast the steps which all of us can be taking as we get to that. And we've actually turned that into a toolkit, which we're working on really hard right now to make it shareable. And Janelle was just showing me today the website and some of the assets, and it's probably within the next 2 months to be ready to be shared anywhere in the world for communities to use, which is super, super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think that's what I like a lot about what you're trying to do, is to draw a positive future, because we,
Yeah.
we are surrounded by negative futures,
Yeah.
like multi-crisis, whatever, and whatever we look, how it will be in the future seems to be like, not so good anymore as today
Hmm.
for most of us in the rich Western world, let's say. Maybe there are other perspectives on the planet, but anyway, but I think it's very, very important to make your daily next step. You need to know where you want to go to,
Yeah.
and that is, there needs to be people drafting these positive futures,
Yeah.
and presenting it and giving it to people. And I think that's something, a very, very important task.
So I hear that, Andreas. I agree with you. And the part which I would augment a little bit, which is to say we don't give them the futures, we help them co design them and co-draft them.
Yeah,
And I
right.
think and you would agree with that as well. I think it's
Yeah,
important thing is we co-design. No one likes to be, well, that's not true. Lots of people like to be given things. But I think the more we can imagine together and at a community level, this is the other big lesson over the past 40 something years is how important it is to go local, especially right now, local, because this is what, at the end of the day, everyone really thinks about the most and how we can make that really happen. So, so I've hogged quite. Who does someone else have a question they'd like to pop or a comment they'd like to add to Karen Andreas? See Scott advocating for solar. He's already done it. Hit him up. He'll tell you the real cost. You know. Anyone else want to ask I can keep talking to these two forever. So that's it's easy. Just going once, going twice.
I might butt in.
All right, Sven. Thank
Um,
you.
so I can only add what you said. It's been very interesting listening to you, very fascinating. Um, I have a question to you, Karen, because pharma is right down my alley. That's what I'm pursuing right now.
Mm,
My degree in pharmaceutical sciences here in Zurich, and
okay.
I've always loved these cross-generational interactions, or like just drawing a picture between, or drawing the line between somebody who's at the beginning of their career and
Hmm.
somebody who's like already had a lot of experience in it, who's transitioned from RA into more of a consulting background. We also brought it up, the FDA, the regulatory bodies involved, what the work they're doing, in what direction is it going. We've already seen a lot of advancements with the Modernization Act 2.
Yeah.
Talks about number 3. What would you like to see moving forward? Maybe on a more maybe one element which is maybe more precise, more zooming in on a specific problem, and maybe something more in the broader sense when it comes to how are we actually practicing healthcare? How can we move forward with a population which is very different from when we put all of these rules in place, and
Yeah.
how can we actually
Okay.
make sure that we will
Let's get
remain being healthy?
Yeah. Are you in Europe? You're in Zurich, you said, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But in the US, I sadly, I really believe that our healthcare system is broken.
Mm,
And we have some of the best science in the world here, but our healthcare system does not work. And and that's very sad. I think that's largely because of insurance companies, but that's a whole other topic. Um, I don't have can't think of anything specific in the Modernization Act, 3. I do think that the reduction of the use of animals in testing is already part of the Modernization Act 2, which is great.
yeah.
It's interesting to see that companies are slow to adopt it. They're
Hmm.
so ingrained in the old way of doing things that uh, I literally recently talked a company into trying to have a written, interaction with the FDA to forego doing a study, which would be in non-human primates, for biologic,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why I think this is so great that the regulatory agencies have put this out. But regarding healthcare, I one thing that I love right now that I've noticed is that there's a lot of opportunity for people to, and people are really embracing this, and social media is a big part of it, managing your own healthcare and not focusing on being healthy, staying healthy, and taking care of yourself. Whereas our healthcare system in the US was more about treating disease and giving you a pill. something to make it go away. But I recently joined one of these. It's an app on my phone that it's very inexpensive. I get to check my own labs anytime I want. Because in the US, with insurance and managed care like HMOs and PPOs, it's been hard to even go into the doctor if you don't have insurance and a primary care physician. But with these
Yep.
new apps like Function Health, I can go in, get my blood drawn, and get the data I need to take care of myself better.
Yep.
And this
Wow.
is a huge new thing, I think, in the US, and a lot of young
Mm.
people are doing it.
Mhm.
Um, because
That's
it's
great.
kind of seems kind of techy, but it's not. It just gives you access to data about yourself. And I feel like more and more people are just kind of taking
Hmm.
charge of their own healthcare.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Speaking of getting some more insights onto your actual health and bodies, I couldn't help but notice, Chris, you're wearing an Apple Watch. Can we get a show of hands? Who wears a fitness wearable? They're
Device,
they're all in the
Yeah.
hype right now. Whoop has
the
Charlotte
ring,
has one
Aura
gotten the
too.
ring.
the Aura
Yeah.
ring, exactly.
Yeah,
How many people actually still wear one?
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Charlotte has one. So, but it's an interesting question. And where do you want to go with that, Finn?
I want to go with that because we're sitting on all of this data about ourselves,
Mhm.
and where I see healthcare going is we've been collecting tons and tons of data on patients, but it's always been a matter of the insurance to make sense of it,
Sure.
and moving into a dimension where we are at the center of it,
Yep.
where we
Yeah.
get to not only
Yeah.
get look at it, not only store it, but actually get insights into it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how are we going to move
So
forward?
it's very interesting you bring that up because I just was on a call yesterday with the Novartis Foundation, and she's the woman who's the head of that was they're looking at agentic AI for women, really
Hmm.
very specifically creating health agents to help women because most medical clinical trials over the past 100 years have been on men, very fewer on women, and so therefore could it was the data sets could she and they help um, improve women's health and preventative care and health care by creating some agents. And they were just talking about that. It was quite interesting, as well as healthy cities. If you can make a city, if you design a city for women, especially for pregnant women, you pretty much make the healthiest city possible. Very simple.
Yeah,
Right. And so that was
yeah.
very, very fascinating to talk with her yesterday about that. So I think we're going to see sort of an revolution the next 5 years, hopefully, and specifically, as long as we're all still here, that'll all be good. Another question. Promoters, Scott, what's on your mind? You joined us. You're from New Jersey.
Yeah, forget about it. The the thing about the data watches, and my father-in-law's a former IBMer, so he's always sort of on the edge of what's possible. The risk associated with having all that data, right? I mean, I know
Hmm.
that some of you are in Europe where things make a little bit more sense, but if that data is out there, you could be excluded from having insurance coverage or have to
Yeah.
pay a different rate
Yeah.
or have that data used against you. So I'm not entirely sure I want it collected in the first place. I mean, I'd love to
Hmm.
have it to manage my health, but I also don't want to expose myself to not being able to access healthcare at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a real concern, and I think that I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much of that is paranoia and how much of that is, especially in our current context, a real fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
There are laws.
Palantir already knows who you are, what's going to happen. So, it's got the model is there, you're going to live another five, you're going to live 25, it's just wait till it to be revealed. I mean, that's what you're talking about basically, right?
But,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
but also, I think you could say a thing about all the data we collect about ourselves and fitness tracker and whatever is uh, we stop to listen to ourselves.
Hmm.
I think, or we replace data collection with what the, what does my body want to tell me? How does it
Yeah.
feel? And I think what Karen said about self-control, or I would coin it self-responsibility,
Yeah.
we have a big impact
Yeah.
on what we eat.
Yeah.
It's kind of is 2-3 kilograms of matter, or five if you drink, of matter from the environment. We push through our bodies and keep the system going.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a self-responsibility we can
Yeah.
work with, and the same immediately are we are in connection with the environment. How we treat our environment. We can
Yeah.
also decide what we
Yeah.
do to our environment. So
It's a really good point. I mean, to Andrea says, like, you have to link it together to, the numbers and the feeling, connecting both the head, the heart, and the body, and making sure we're always keeping those connected. And I'm just noticing with that little tone I just heard in there that it is now 10 minutes until the hour. And I'd like to share a couple things before we say thank you to Andreas and Karen and everyone for pitching up with us today. And all of you, I just want to share this really fast right there. Share. And that's being slideshow. And I think, is it there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So,
It's still in edit mode. No, oh,
did it come yet or no? Is it still in
We
edit
see
mode
the
or is it?
first slide. Okay, there it
it's
goes.
transitioning now.
Okay, cool. So, we cool? You see,
Yep.
Foresight Workshop? So next week, Jonelle's going to be leading through a methods workshop because many of you have said we'd love to learn some more foresight methods.
Chris,
So
we're
this,
seeing a very small part of your screen. I don't know if you want to share fully.
okay, um, I can try again,
Oh, the
and
QR code.
I often I'll
it,
do the share full window
yeah,
option.
yeah, that's yeah. Well, you can say that, but there you go,
Yes, to pull this up, we can.
there you go. Does that, or maybe if someone else can share it, if this isn't, do you still see it? Is it still tiny or is it bigger?
It's
No.
nowhere. Here, I'll pull it up.
Right. So,
Share.
all right. So next week, this time, there's going to be the Foresight Workshop News from the Future. There you can see, and Janelle's going to be leaving that, and it's going to be super fun. It's where you look into the future, step back, and write news in tomorrow. And then also, we have the next slide is we did the first year's season one, 17 episodes, Choosing to Matter. We interviewed 17 individuals, amazing humans, about their choices through life and what they're doing today. It was really quite fun. And we have a new podcast, which we're just launching, which is Conversation That Shaped Tomorrow. Kinney and team have taken all of the stage dialogues from Your 2040 from 5 years, and we're putting them on to our different podcast streaming platforms. As you hear here, 79 voices, 6 years, 5 gatherings, and one team has put together. It's really quite amazing when we look back what we've been able to do and who has been with us and what they've shared with us, frankly. It's been quite phenomenal. The next slide is we're doing a bike ride to change. It's going from Tussis, probably a little bit more like Albula, up over the Albula Pass, down and landing in La Punt. This is the weekend of Friday, the 26th and 27th. It could be a bike ride and dinner for those who would like to join us. We'd love to have you join us. If you go from Tussis, it's 2,300 meters of elevation, which is a little bit tough. But for those who are in town and have an e-bike, maybe you can, like me, I will go halfway and then do the rest. So it's going to be quite fun. And we have more about that. You can sign up on that one. And the next slide is then our next annual gathering. We're moving to September, 3rd through the 6th of September. We're going to be starting on the 3rd and 4th in Pontresina, and the weekend will be in La Punt again, following the what, so what, now what process. Thursday the 6th, Thursday the 3rd, being full of 5 panels on the what, from beyond the visible, from outer space to inner space. And then on So What is the Friday. And then we're going to deep dives with different panelists, and you can choose 3 or 4 to spend 2 hours with. And then on the weekend, we'll go back to La Punt and do the what are we going to do about this. And finally, my last lecture. Oh, yeah, this was the record. My last lecture, and as a full-time employee of the ETH in Zurich, was last weekend, or about on the 31st of March, so 2 weeks ago, and it is now available on YouTube, and you're welcome to share that. It was a very moving evening for me, especially. I enjoyed it, especially a week later, a lot more than that night. And so, and then we can stop sharing now, and say it's super, super, super. Thank you to Andreas and Karen for stepping up and joining us to be our lead discussants this evening. Both of you are amazing in what you do in your ways. And thank you for being you very,
Thank
very
you
much.
for
And
asking.
yeah, I really appreciate it. And we will be able to see you this coming autumn, if that works. And if not, then you're still with us in heart no matter what. So with that, Kinney and Emily, thank you very much. And I thank everyone else who's on the call to being with us. I really, really appreciate you. To make